learning all about how the government is our federal family and they're here to help us.
Compliacin. Talk to your school psychiatrist and ask for it by name.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. If you want to do so, the phone number here is 603-283-6160. Give us a call. Get your thoughts on the air. The us in the studio tonight is Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
How you been, Riley?
Well, I've been doing pretty good. I'm actually going to be going back to Utah this winter, this December, so I'll be heading back around the 17th or so. I'm excited to go back. I haven't seen my family since August. I did have my mom and sister come visit in October, which is really nice to have them here. Really nice to see them. So I'm looking forward to visiting family. How about you, Stu? How are you doing?
I'm doing as well as I can expect, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're from southern Utah, right?
That's right. I grew up in a town called Ivins, which is, at the time I was growing up, a few thousand people, and has grown a lot. And at one point, my dad was actually mayor of Ivins, so I've had, my family's been involved politically somewhat. At least my dad has been involved politically. So,
what direction is that from St. George?
It's about 8 miles north and west of St. George. So
north and west.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of out toward Enterprise.
Yeah, kind of out toward Enterprise. Not quite toward Enterprise, I guess. More toward Santa Clara, more toward, like,
okay,
Gunlock Reservoir. I don't know if you know where Gunlock Reservoir is or anything like that.
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice weather down there. I like the desert.
It definitely is nice weather. Like, the desert is beautiful. Like, there are times I miss it. I don't miss the summers in the desert, but I do miss the desert. There's something really unique about the desert. It's different than being back east. People back east don't understand how open being out west is and how different the desert is compared to, being back east.
Mm-hmm. Whereas this far north, we've already had one night where we ran completely out of Fahrenheit degrees.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yep. Cold up here.
I know, it does get pretty cold, for sure, but, it's winter. Winter is about survival and finding ways to survive as humans.
Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, I find the winter of northern Utah much more oppressive and miserable than the winter here.
Really? How so?
Here it's less gray. It's more green and white. And I think you get more sunny days here than you do at least in the Salt Lake Valley in winter.
Yeah. I can imagine that's true because I know the Salt Lake Valley has like an inversion effect to it. It's like a big bowl and it's just keeping everything in.
Yep. And they got the inverted weather pattern, which jams all the smog in there that comes off of the plant, or maybe there's more than one plant, but out on the Great Salt Lake, they harvest brine shrimp and turn them into magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
And it's highly toxic process, and that wind just kind of blows over Tooele area and then comes in the west side of the valley, and a lot of times it just sort of sits there in the winter times, and it
that sounds horrible.
Miserable.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if that doesn't let up, it just gets colder and colder because it's not letting any sunlight in. So, anyways, I
do have family, before we go on, I do have family living in northern Utah. They don't live in Salt Lake Valley, but they live in Utah Valley, and I'm sure the weather is just as inverted there as it is in Salt Lake Valley. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Where did you say that was?
Utah Valley, like Eagle Mountain, Highlands, Lehigh, that area.
No, I don't know if they do or not, because they have Utah Lake just lower than them inside of that valley.
Yeah.
And I think the lake just kind of disperses a lot of that. I think it's pretty unique to just Salt Lake Valley, and on any given day, their pollution report is usually worse than that of like L.A. and some of the other worst cities in America.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's horrible. But it's funny too because they put the Kennecott mine through like through probably millions or billions of dollars of having to install emissions control equipment because they're right there at the edge of the valley.
Mhm.
That's the huge mine that you can see from the moon, I guess.
Really?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, it's gigantic. You can take tours of it, and it's a giant hole in the mountain on the west side of the valley there.
Yeah.
That's owned by Rio Tinto now, but I kind of forgot where I was going with this. Oh, they put those guys through all kinds of emissions reductions. It costs them a ton of money, but they don't do like those guys out on the lake that are like really doing some nasty chemical stuff. They're pretty much free to do whatever they want to.
Really?
from
That's
what I
crazy.
understand.
That's
My grandfather was an engineer at one of those places. That's how I know about those
yeah.
things. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Well, Riley, you brought this story in that I find interesting because this is one of the things that gets a lot of people interested in the libertarian stuff is the money topic, right? So you brought this in from the Mises Institute,
Which is actually a reputable news source.
actually reputable.
Yeah. It's not a reputable news source, it's actually reputable.
No sarcasm there.
Exactly.
The inevitable decline of developed nations' fiat money. Governments assume they can print as much currency as they'd like, and it will be accepted by force. However, the history of fiat currencies is always the same. First, governments exceed their credit limits, then ignore all the warning signs, and finally see the currency collapse. Today we are living the decline of developed economies' fiat currencies in real time. The global reserve system is slowly but decisively diversifying away from a pure fiat currency anchor toward a mixed regime where gold plays the dominant role, not fiat currencies. That is, as far as I can tell, absolutely true. China's buying up gold like bananas, and India has kind of always been buying up gold, but so there's an increase there, but they've already been like pretty much as gold hungry as they could be.
Yeah.
But a lot of other places are starting to buy it up now too.
It's because gold actually seems to maintain some sort of value if governments don't debase equal back currency. And we all know that governments always debase equal back currency, whether it's Rome, whether it's whatever country or empire that has been in existence. Eventually, they're going to debase equal back currency. And regardless of whether gold is debased, people say it has value because, it has value to them because it's rare, it's precious to them. But in some cultures, this is why value is subjective. In some cultures, they don't value gold at all. They might value seashells or cacao beans or something else. And so...
Yeah, I guess one of the history stories I heard was about the conquest of Africa by the Dutch and English. And one of the things was there were places in Western Africa where you could just pick up chunks of gold off the ground because the natives had no use for it. They didn't value it. And so it was just kind of everywhere, which must have been... Can you imagine just walking somewhere and picking up big chunks of gold right off the ground?
I know. That would be wild. And you bring it back to the United States, have it refined, and be a millionaire?
Yep.
Wow.
Also, I'd like to say that gold seems a safe bet if you figure out like how exactly how the gold market works to the fullest extent. Then it's a pretty safe bet because it's being the price of it is being suppressed, and
right,
and that can only be kept up so long. So at some point, gold's got to go up. And then if you look at ratios too, I think silver's in for going up more than gold.
I've heard that rumor.
Percentage-wise.
I've heard people say that a lot, and I've definitely seen the price of gold go up over the past few months.
Mm-hmm.
And I know since I last bought silver for myself, which was in 2020, March of 2024, end of March, the value of silver has definitely doubled in value, excuse me. So, I've definitely valued, my investment has gone up quite a bit. And so,
Yeah, it's almost up to 60 now. 60
Yeah.
an ounce.
$60 an ounce. That's pretty wild. Like the last time I remember really buying it for myself, it was like $23, $24 an ounce. So
Yeah, the highest point in my lifetime was around $80 an ounce, and that was in the 1980s.
really, that's amazing.
And that was just from the efforts of, I guess, this is rumor that I have not substantiated. Two brothers in Texas that had a whole bunch of money and figured out how the metals market manipulation worked, wanted to see if they could kind of harass the system and pump the price of silver past where it could be held down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about as far as they got it, and it took all their money.
Wow. But, our listeners out there should be aware that we're huge fans of gold and silver because we believe it's precious, we believe that it has value, and we believe that its value goes up over time because people will want it more, governments will want it more, banks will want it more because they see it as a long-term value proposition. They don't see dirty fiat as a long-term value proposition.
Plus, it's nice to have something shiny you can hold in your hand.
Oh yeah, it's nice to have a shiny rock in your hand for sure.
Yep. IMF coffer data shows that while the U.S. dollar still dominates, its share of reported reserves has drifted down toward the high 50s. Gold has overtaken the U.S. dollar and euro as the main asset in central banks for the first time in 40 years. That's bad news for the dollar.
It is.
There's reason for this historic change. Developed economies have surpassed all their limits to indebtedness. Public debt is currency issuance, and the credibility of developed nations as issuers is fading fast. Yeah, you think? It started when the ECB, the Fed, and major global central banks reported large losses. Their asset base was yielding negative returns as inflation and solvency issues became evident. Mainstream economists and governments dismissed these losses as insignificant, yet they demonstrated the extreme risk associated with the asset purchases made in previous years. Inflation is a form of de facto gradual default on issued obligations, and global central banks are avoiding the debt of developed nations because they see a deterioration in the fiscal and inflationary outlook. Sovereign debt is not a reserve asset anymore. Global public debt has reached about $102 trillion, a new historical record, well above pre-pandemic levels and close to the peaks hit during the most aggressive monetary expansion. Sovereign debt has driven this phenomenal rise, with countries like France and the United States running enormous annual deficits in non-crisis periods. Bidenomics. I didn't recognize that word because it's kind of a... Bidenomics in the United States was the clearest evidence of imprudent fiscal policy, running record deficits and increasing spending by more than $2 trillion in a period of strong economic recovery. How did this loss of confidence happen? Monetary sovereign nations do not have an unlimited ability to issue currency and debt. They have clear limits that, when surpassed, generate an immediate loss of global confidence. Developed economies have breached the three limits, especially since 2021. So this is true. People, I've often heard it say they can print as much as they want, and kind of they can, but there are natural limits on it, as just described by this article. And the consequence for them surpassing these limits is that nobody believes the dollar holds up anymore, and then the dollar doesn't hold up anymore. The economic limit is reached when ever higher debt leads to a decrease in marginal growth. Government spending has bloated GDP, but productivity has stalled, and net real wages are stagnant or declining. The fiscal limit arises from the crowding out of productive investment by interest expense and entitlement spending. Despite financial repression, low rates, and monetary stimulus, interest expenses are taking up larger portions of developed nations' budgets, making financial government obligations more expensive, even as the annualized CPI moderates. The inflationary limit is reached as repeated monetary financing of government spending erodes confidence in the purchasing power of fiat money, and cumulative inflation outpaces real wages, creating an affordability crisis. That's so that's like when things get way too expensive and your wages just aren't keeping up with it.
Yep.
I wonder what that feels like. The recent combination of high nominal debt, rising interest expense, and structural fiscal deficits in major advanced economies proves this crossing of all limits. Central banks understand fiat money and know that sovereign debt is not the safe asset that provides stability and real economic returns anymore. Thus, they have responded with an unprecedented wave of gold purchases. Net official buying exceeded 1,100 tons in 2022 and remained above 1,000 tons in both 23 and 24, more than double the annual average between 2010 and 2021. By 2024, central banks officially purchased 1,045 tons of gold, marking the third consecutive year above the 1,000-ton level and extending a 15-year streak of net additions. However, unofficial purchases are estimated to be significantly larger. Central banks can unofficially purchase gold? Surveys show that around a third of global central banks plan to increase their gold holdings in the coming years, and more than 4/5 expect global official gold holdings to keep rising due to concerns over persistent inflation, financial stability, and solvency issues. I don't know. Americans don't hold gold, do they?
Some Americans do. I know I do. At least I hold gold backs.
Yeah. This is, I think, traditionally in America, and I could be wrong, but this is something like old people used to do.
Yeah.
And young people just aren't so much into that.
Well, the young people are more interested in using services like Apple Pay and PayPal and things like that because they believe that, their digital currency is so cool, but it's still a digital dollar. It's just not as cool as cryptocurrency that's actually backed by the trust and security of a network.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to jam a gold coin into your cell phone and send it to your buddy, huh?
Yeah, it really is. But it sure would be fun.
Yeah. Well, there's been efforts to make gold and or silver-backed cryptos, but for some reason people don't seem to want to use those. I think it would be fantastic if people adopted a silver-backed cryptocurrency, such as Liberty Dollar 2.
Yeah.
Because then you're trading something that's actually backed by value, or things that many people in this world value. There are some people who don't care about silver. I like it.
I like it too. I think silver is really nice to have. I know my dad likes silver. I like silver. I just think, a lot of people undervalue it because they don't realize that, hey, silver actually has value. We use it in batteries. I mean, if you're driving an electric vehicle, your batteries are pretty much made of silver. And, if the electric vehicle industry goes through a boom cycle, silver is going to be extremely valuable for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see here. I've lost my spot in this article. The record global demand is a direct answer to the lack of confidence in the sustainability of fiat liabilities issued by over-indebted sovereigns. Gold has no default risk and no central bank control, making it a suitable investment when central banks themselves doubt the long-term credibility of large nations' currencies. Many reserve managers believe that the way governments are heavily increasing their money supply during crisis, along with only slow returns to normal policies, means that inflation and financial control are now permanent parts of the system instead of just temporary fixes. Thus, purchasing gold reserves is an insurance policy against the gradual taxation of savers through negative real yields and inflation. Such an outcome does not mean an imminent collapse of the US dollar nor a de-dollarization process, but an unquestionable loss of confidence in fiat currencies altogether, from the euro and the pound to the yen and the US dollar. Indeed, the US dollar remains the dominant fiat currency, accounting for 89% of global transactions and holding 57% of global reserves. But it leads a declining empire of fake money. Investors and central banks are moving to a hybrid reserve order in which fiat currencies coexist with a structurally higher allocation to gold, but also a rising use of decentralized cryptocurrencies. I wonder how much that's true. I think the central banks are just buying like stable coins, right?
I imagine they probably are because stable coins are supposedly less volatile.
Yeah. The only time to me that it made sense to go into a stable coin is if you thought the price of your crypto was going to go down, your actual crypto.
Yeah.
And then you would hide out in a stable coin without having to go to US dollars. And then you get back in when you thought it was done going down.
That would be a good use case for it. Then you could buy more crypto.
Other than that, I never thought of any reason that I would ever want to use a stable coin.
Yeah.
Except for trading pairs, right? So, I don't know. I guess that is a lot of where where their use case comes from. But anyways, there's I wonder how much actual Bitcoin central banks are holding. How much Ethereum,
I wonder that too, because if they're holding any at all, it might be a small chunk change for them, but not for us. And maybe they hold enough they could flood the market with it when the time is right and maybe buy it back up cheaper. I don't know.
Well, let's see if they know. It doesn't say anything about the Federal Reserve owning Bitcoin, but it talks about like the U.S. Strategic Crypto Reserve.
Yeah.
At 198,000 Bitcoins.
Stolen Bitcoins, of course.
Stolen Bitcoins. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
When you're coping with bad news and the news media come calling, and they will, don't clam up. As notorious political figures find out the hard way, the cover-up can be worse than the crime. So get out in front of unfavorable news about your company, your group, or organization, or yourself. The sooner you confront a negative story, the sooner it will be over. Responding as quickly to negative stories as you do to positive ones enhances your credibility. Hiding embarrassing information or lying will do more damage than damage control. Never stonewall. Tell your side of the story, use specifics, and detail what corrective action has already been taken. Respond in kind. If the issue is emotional, don't sound like a cold, unemotional Mr. Spock. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. US strikes on suspected drug boats remained a major focus in Washington this week. The White House confirmed that the US carried out a second strike on a boat in the Caribbean Sea in September as 2 injured people clung to the wreckage. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the second strike, which critics now say could amount to a war crime. Ever since Tony Waterman was monitoring developments in Washington.
Press Secretary Leavitt said Pete Hegseth authorized the commander of the operation, Admiral Frank Bradley, to carry out the strikes, defending it as a matter of national security.
Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Democrat and Republican lawmakers have vowed to launch investigations into what could be a potential war crime. It's illegal to intentionally kill wounded, sick, or shipwrecked people who are not fighting back. President Trump has said he still has confidence in Hegseth, but wouldn't have ordered a second strike.
The Ukraine peace plan was discussed around the world this week in Moscow, where US envoy Steve Witkoff met Russian President Vladimir Putin, then in Miami, where a Ukrainian delegation met with Witkoff, and in New Delhi, where President Putin met India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The leaders' summit came amid Western pressure on India to reduce its trade with Moscow and use its influence to get Putin to end the war in Ukraine. FSN's Zishan Garg sent this report from New Delhi.
Now, from India's perspective, what it could do potentially to woo the United States on the other side, and that's something the European capitals have also been asking New Delhi as well, is to ask President Vladimir Putin to put an end to the war in Ukraine. European envoys have privately told the Indian government that Prime Minister Modi has President Putin's ear, and therefore he should use this influence to ensure that President Putin comes to the table, signs a peace deal, and puts an end to the Ukraine war.
This week, the FBI said it arrested a man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic Party headquarters in Washington, D.C., following a years-long inquiry. The devices were left on January the 5th, 2021, the day before Donald Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. The week ended with a mixture of sport and politics as US President Donald Trump was awarded the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize. It came at the draw to find out which countries will play each other at next summer's Football World Cup. The draw was held in Washington, D.C., with the event next year being hosted by the US, Canada and Mexico. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, where we're talking freely while we still can.
Exactly. Talk it, we're freeing it live.
I'd like to thank Barry for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Barry went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to Barry and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier.
Thanks, Barry.
Indeed. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We have a caller on the line.
Let's go to the caller.
I haven't checked who it is.
Do you want to know who it is?
Nah.
Okay.
Let's do it live.
All right, let's do it live, man. We'll edit it in post, maybe.
On-screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
The Mises Institute is not a credible source.
Neither are you.
Mises Institute is really a clown school.
It's easily more credible than you. But,
yeah.
But let's hear it.
How so? You don't even know. So
do you think,
you just sound like some young kid trying to call into a radio show to pretend like you know stuff.
Don't ask questions you don't want the answer to.
More than the Mises Institute. So why do you guys think modern academia rejects the Austrian school? Do you think they don't like their conclusions?
I just don't think they're aware of the Austrian economic school at all and how it functions. I think they're more focused on, finding their own ways of doing things and thinking that government is better, or stupid ideas like Keynesian theory. They're just retarded.
No, well, academia is not all just Keynesian school. There's neoclassical, which makes up a large portion of their analysis. They reject the Austrian school for their methodology, not the conclusions. But yes, these academicians, they do have, they are going to have a natural bias toward like government policy because that's probably their biggest employer. But that's not the entire reason why they reject the Austrian school. All their theories are reached through fallacious methodology.
How would you demonstrate your claim?
Just look at all their theories.
No, I want you to demonstrate your claim, dude.
Yeah, I'm about to. If you don't stop interrupting me, I'm about to go down the list.
Make it quick. We're doing a radio show.
Ethics from their. Wait, no, I got my segment. Also, subjective value, the way they pervert, like what subjective value, like what mainstream says subjective value is, versus what Mises tries to pervert it as.
Which is what exactly?
Mises tries.
Yeah, you're a little too abstract. You're probably going to have to pick one and then kind of extrapolate.
So I'm just going to go down a quick list, and I want to stick to objective value with money, right? So first, like, none of his theories hold up. Like regression theorem with his theorem for money, like Bitcoin kind of messed that up. No one believes the ECP. It doesn't, like the economic calculation problem doesn't even, it's such a weak statement. It's totally not useful. Subjective value, ECP, all business cycle, all of these things, they don't make sense because he chooses not to use math, right? This is the primary reason why he's rejected, right? You can't reason this out using normal English language and think you can get away with smuggling in your agenda, just like with subjective value, right? He chose subjective value, like we're going to get into subjective value with money, but he chose subjective value to smuggle in his agenda for individual choice, right? This is not what you do, right? Money has objective value, right?
No,
it has.
No, it doesn't.
What's utility? You keep talking about utility, right? Utility is objective. Money has one purpose, right? You can kind of know what the optimal money is. Money has one objective purpose.
Certainly, it has one
value.
obvious purpose. Yes, you could wipe your butt with it, but but most people want to spend it, or like you can. I've heard you can use it for like putting drugs into your nose or whatever. But
that's not its use. That's not its store of value. Is not its
right.
use.
But we don't all value it the same
really
as we don't really value it all the same as is evidenced by those guys that hang out by the parking garage that are all strung out on heroin and don't have any. And that don't seem interested in getting any.
It's subjective doesn't mean we value it the same. You want me to quote you something from Mises that says that? It doesn't mean we value things the same.
Objective means objective means we value it the same. If it's objectively valuable, no. It's universally valuable.
Where is that? I didn't pull it up. I had it. I gave it to Rich, but even Mises says we can value things differently. But it's subjective means it comes from our mind, right? We determine it. Our mind determines it. It doesn't perceive
Correct.
it. It determines it.
Correct.
Like you can set any value you want, right? So why don't you value eating glass right now? Just set the value. No, it has objective value.
Yeah, I would set that at a negative value.
So money has one purpose. It's to guide our actions and to measure objective value, right? It's to measure productivity.
It's to be the best medium of.
Well, wait till I finish. It's to help us allocate resources toward production. That's what money is there for. And the money that does that best is the one that will emerge as the victor. And you can't do that with things like privacy, right? Of course, it has to be. Privacy inhibits how we allocate our actions, our resources, our time, our efforts towards productivity. Also, it creates things like theft. It causes us to use passwords that we lose.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, and I'm just tired of the argument that just because I keep getting beat up on the playground, that I should just give up and join the bullies group and do what they're doing, even though it's totally stupid and uninteresting to me. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep playing my own way and keep getting beat up, I guess. Does that make you right?
You can't just choose. I mean, what are you talking about? Are you talking about sticking with Austrian economics?
You're just like your whole point here is that
what are you talking
is
about?
that the person who the person with the most guns wins, basically, is what you're saying. The person who can force their will. The person who can force their will the best is the winner and deserves it.
No, the person who produces more gets the most guns.
So why do churches exist?
No, that's not true.
They don't produce a lot.
You have all kinds of waste and fraud and just absolute.
Look at the.
In fact, the amount of waste going on is a large part of why I wasn't able to just jump on and be like, yeah, okay, this system's okay enough and we could fix it. It's not, man.
It's not a mistake that the country with the highest GDP is the one that dominates the world. It's the reason why indigenous populations get their land stolen.
Okay, but why is it that...
Hold on. Let me just make one sentence. Now I forgot what it was.
Why is it then, if this is true...
Production depends how you can even defend your own property. This is what rich doesn't get, right? If you set value as productivity, it even tells you what's practical to defend, right? Like, for instance, right, your car.
So you're saying
it's an inanimate object, right?
The strongest person on the planet ought to own everything, by your logic. If you come to your logical conclusion, I'm trying to.
Right makes might. Right makes might. Did you get that? Right is being productive, and naturally, power comes from being productive, right? So it's like profit, right? So, like, if your business is profitable, you'll have more money to make the same decisions, those same type of decisions. That's evolution rewarding you for being productive. That's why America dominates. You can't afford superior technology without being productive. That's the key to having power, right? That's the source of objective value. If the U.S. is a fraud, they're going, and it is, right? Well, a lot of it is. A lot of the production is fluff because it's in the form of debt that can't be repaid. It will be exposed, and they will immediately lose all their power. Right?
That's not true.
This is an evolutionary process.
That's not true.
What money was made for.
All right. So you made your point, and I would counter with, it's not true. How long has Monsanto been operating fraudulently? Where they poison the food, and then they tell you that it's because you can now grow more, but there's no actual scientific evidence. Hey, hold on, I gave you your turn, right? There's no actual evidence to show that you can grow more food when using Monsanto's poison, and so they and they've cornered the market with their GMO seeds, which they will infect your property with, and then sue you for not having paid for that seed. And
they're called patents.
So is this what you call productivity?
Did you count for patents?
Patents cannot be made on plants.
What does it have to do with productivity?
Never be made on plants.
No.
What does it have to do with? In fact, you ought to do away with patents if it's all about productivity.
They dominate the market because of their patents, not because of their productivity. Once you remove those, and that's caused by government.
So you're against patents?
Yes, because
wow. Because I wouldn't expect that.
Property. Oh my God! Because you don't listen.
Or you don't listen to us.
This all goes to my property theory doesn't distinguish between real and intellectual property. Property should always go to the most productive, like ideas. So intellectual property is just an idea. It should go to the best producer, right? And the creator should not have the monopoly of power to determine who uses that idea. Just like any property, right? The current owner should not determine where that property goes next. And this all fits in there. That's the general case for any real or intellectual property. My theory of property is consistent. Yours, you have to make a special case. You have to talk about how property is somehow.
I think Riley and I think about property a little differently. So you can't really say that.
It doesn't matter what you think about it, right? If you're right, evolution will give you the power to defend it, and you're wrong. You'll never have the power to defend it through profit, right? This is that's what money is. It's the measure of objective value once it's perfect, right? And evolution will always force money to evolve toward its idea of perfection, which is a type of social credit score. It's going to be some type of instrument with no privacy, because privacy inhibits measuring productivity. It hides unproductive acts. You'll never get around it. It will invade it once it comes about, like some type of crypto social credit score. It'll invade all systems, and this is how I theorize government will collapse. It's partially due to the fiscal collapse, but it could be due to this thing that invades, like Skynet. It's gonna be so useful you won't be able to stop people from using it, and it'll become the superior network good.
So it'll scoop Bitcoin, everything up, and it'll be the owner of everything, and it'll allocate resources according to what's.
Yes, and that's due to having no privacy.
Okay.
You're gonna have to deal with that. It'll make Bitcoin, it'll make gold, it'll make silver obsolete. They're all already obsolete, right? No one wants to hold crypto. No one wants to manage passwords and seed phrases, right?
I do.
See people losing money every day. No one wants that.
I do.
If no one wants that, no one wants.
Speak for yourself.
Fraud and theft. No one wants to worry about people hacking their wallet. No, you don't. So if you have no privacy, you can't steal my reputation on my social credit score. On the social credit score, you don't have to worry about jumping. You don't have to worry about jumping from currency to currency and managing which currency will survive. You don't have to do that with a social credit score system. You could have competing scoring systems on one information platform, right? You don't have to worry about, should I be in Bitcoin? How much time does that? I spend a lot of time worrying about how my savings are invested. That should be better put to use in the areas of real production instead of worrying about which currency will survive. Is it gold? Is it Bitcoin? Is it silver? And silver is crap, right? Money gains objective value.
What's wrong with silver?
It has too low of a value to weight ratio. Like
value to weight. You're saying it's too heavy and clunky. You'd need too much of it to.
Why do you?
I know. I like it. I like it for your daily purchasing and gold for your saving.
Most of money's value comes from the storing of it, right? So how money's distributed because of production, right? Money's distributed like productivity via the Pareto distribution. So that means, of course, that like the top 10% own 90% of the money, right? They're the most productive, right? And they don't care about everyday purchases. That's why silver has underperformed up until now. That's why it's at the GSR 70. It was like 120 before, but it's 70 now. That's not a mistake, right? It's not a mistake that the U.S. got rid of silver as money first, right? It's hard to store.
Yeah, they went after silver hard. They did not like that one.
No, yeah, because as we get richer, we don't spend most of our money on everyday items. We store most of it to spend at a later date. And that's why gold has higher objective value, more utility as a store of value.
And that's why I like it less than silver. Because what you just basically said is that the reason gold has a higher value is that the world bullies went around forcing people like Mexico and the Philippines to ditch their silver currencies in favor of either a gold one or a strictly fiat denominated currency.
No, it's totally the opposite. If the rich were ever to get in real physical silver, they're not going to run, and they're not currently, right? If the big money actually came in, institutions and the top 10%, they're not going to run to silver eventually. Right now, they're buying paper.
That's fine, but
probably seeing even.
But if the masses quit valuing what it is that the rich have decided has value, you see what I'm saying? Like the masses can flip that on them and make their riches not very valuable.
They can't.
I
already told you. Money and productivity is distributed through the Pareto distribution. The bottom 90 or 80% only control about 10 to 20% of the money. How much? There's a cap to your influence. That's not even including the institutions, right? When people gather money together and the institution makes a decision on their behalf, and they're going to make it just like a rich person, right? They're going to care about storability and transportability, right? Why aren't you rich anyway? I thought, didn't you get into Bitcoin, crypto earlier? You seem like you know what happened in 2017, like with the fork.
Yeah.
If you were in that early, how come
the price of Bitcoin when I first bought it was $350? I've never had one whole Bitcoin. I've had 0.92 at one point when it was worth about $1,100, and I had to sell that to buy a car. And
it's hard to hold on to crypto.
It is when you're when you don't have a real good steady income that's more than you need for your basic living.
Like Roger Ver?
My income has always been slightly less than what I have deemed that I need for living. I guess by that metric, like I'm living above my means, right? That's why.
And you, Riley, did you get in late? How come you're not rich?
I don't have to answer that question.
Maybe he is then.
Probably the same reasons too. Like, most of us are trying to work and find ways to survive, and we live beyond our means at times.
Yeah, even a lot of people who got in early sold it when it first went up to 1,000, and then if they had the wherewithal to buy back in, they probably sold when it went up to 20,000, and then if they had the wherewithal to buy back in, you see what I'm saying? So there's a term that the crypto community uses for this. They call it diamond hands. And it's a very nerve-wracking thing to hold on through so many up and down cycles, if that makes any sense.
Do you think people want that with their money?
Well, I don't know.
Now imagine that system, right? Where all your info, since there's no privacy and all reputation systems feed off the information of what you do, right? You don't have to do anything. You automatically have savings in each of the scoring systems. You don't have to worry about, is Bitcoin going to collapse? Is there going to be FUD tomorrow on Bitcoin? You don't have to worry. You have savings in this credit score. You have savings in this credit score. If that one fails, if you use a particular credit score that doesn't measure value, you're going to be worse off because you're not going to be accurately assessing what goods and capital are out there and what business ventures are actually profitable, what personal and business ventures are profitable. This is why evolution is going to force us into this somewhat crypto social credit score. Embrace it, and if you're smart enough, you're going to look for the opportunity to invest in it.
All right, thanks for the call tonight, Skeeter. I
wonder why he has to do that weird laugh every once in a while. It kind of delegitimizes his claims.
Yeah. Well, I think Skeeter's playing a part. I think he's in real life probably not much at all like that guy that calls in. But
I'd hope not.
I don't know. We asked him on Sunday if he worked for the government, and he didn't say no. So until he refutes it, I'm going to assume that he's just he's probably paid by some government agency to give us a call and try to give us a hard time.
Most likely.
But yeah, I've thought regularly about this future which he envisions, where there's no privacy and everything is based on your social credit score. It's been so there's this tactic they'll use, the social planners, where they'll get you so scared of a thing that when they offer any alternative, you'll go running straight into it.
Right? Oh
yeah. This social credit score thing sounds scary, but I can see, if it's done right, how it really would improve a lot of our lives.
What do you mean by improve our lives? How would a social credit score improve our lives? Can you provide some examples?
Well, Some of the stuff, believe it or not, that Skeeter was pointing to as far as not having to worry about currency stability. And not that, I mean, it's fine if it happens naturally. A lot of currency stability is simply the product of, central bank shenanigans.
Yeah.
It's totally an unnatural phenomenon and shouldn't exist. It's what I would call an abomination. So you wouldn't suffer, the devastating effects of inflation or hyperinflation, for example, because things wouldn't be run by a few guys in a dark room smoking cigars. It would be run by, more of a gamified, fair system, such as the Bitcoin blockchain, right?
Yeah.
A system that's harder to cheat. So that's one example. I'm sure there could be other examples, like, how excited people get about their, what do they call it? Virtue signals, right? Where they, like people going out to protest, maybe half-heartedly, but just because, hey, look at me, I showed up at the protest or whatever, right?
Yeah, or you're wearing a certain symbol or doing a certain thing to prove how great you are.
Right, so instead of just the virtue signal points, they'd have something to show for it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It would incentivize
No kings protest anyone?
Perhaps people, though, to act more in a way according to what they truly believe in, rather than what they think is, looks virtuous. Give us a call. The phone number is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
Well, I'm a working police officer. I'm actually on duty in a small town in Central Texas. I've been doing this job 10 years. 99% of what you guys talk about is dead on. We got guys getting into this profession just to wear a badge and play God. It's getting worse and worse. There used to be a couple of decent guys that I worked with. Both of them have quit.
Why did they quit?
Well, it's because of the BS. We can't help the people that actually need help, which is what you get into this job to do if you're a good person.
It's interesting that whenever honest cops call in like you, we get the same story. That the corruption rises through the ranks, that the good guys, the guys like you that got in to make a difference and actually help people and catch the real bad guys, the guys like you end up getting frustrated by the system, frustrated by the corruption and the bureaucracy, and they end up quitting, which of course means that more bad guys can move in and move up through the ranks. Is anything inaccurate about that?
No, sir. That's my point entirely.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. US strikes on suspected drug boats remained a major focus in Washington this week. The White House confirmed that the US carried out a second strike on a boat in the Caribbean Sea in September as 2 injured people clung to the wreckage. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the second strike, which critics now say could amount to a war crime. Ever since Tony Waterman was monitoring developments in Washington.
Press Secretary Leavitt said Pete Hegseth authorized the commander of the operation, Admiral Frank Bradley, to carry out the strikes, defending it as a matter of national security.
Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Democrat and Republican lawmakers have vowed to launch investigations into what could be a potential war crime. It's illegal to intentionally kill wounded, sick, or shipwrecked people who are not fighting back. President Trump has said he still has confidence in Hegseth, but wouldn't have ordered a second strike.
The Ukraine peace plan was discussed around the world this week in Moscow, where US envoy Steve Witkoff met Russian President Vladimir Putin, then in Miami, where a Ukrainian delegation met with Witkoff, and in New Delhi, where President Putin met India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The leaders' summit came amid Western pressure on India to reduce its trade with Moscow and use its influence to get Putin to end the war in Ukraine. FSN's Zishan Garg sent this report from New Delhi.
Now, from India's perspective, what it could do potentially to woo the United States on the other side, and that's something the European capitals have also been asking New Delhi as well, is to ask President Vladimir Putin to put an end to the war in Ukraine. European envoys have privately told the Indian government that Prime Minister Modi has President Putin's ear, and therefore he should use this influence to ensure that President Putin comes to the table, signs a peace deal, and puts an end to the Ukraine war.
This week, the FBI said it arrested a man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic Party headquarters in Washington, D.C., following a years-long inquiry. The devices were left on January the 5th, 2021, the day before Donald Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. The week ended with a mixture of sport and politics as US President Donald Trump was awarded the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize. It came at the draw to find out which countries will play each other at next summer's Football World Cup. The draw was held in Washington, D.C., with the event next year being hosted by the US, Canada and Mexico. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN. Leaders of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda this week signed a peace deal negotiated by the US, aimed at stabilizing a war-scarred region and attracting Western mining investment. It came as part of an expected minerals and infrastructure partnership between the DRC and the Trump administration. FSN's Kate Fisher sent this report from Washington.
The two African nations have been involved in one of the longest-running conflicts in the world. The so-called Washington Accord was signed in the newly named Donald J. Trump Institute for Peace in Washington.
This has become the 8th war that we've ended in less than 1 year. Such an exciting thing to do. This has been because we're talking about 30 years of fighting, 30 years, much more than 10 million lives.
But the ceremony is largely symbolic. The agreement was already signed over the summer and critics still see obstacles to its implementation, not least that the fighting between Congolese forces and Rwanda-backed M23 rebels continues to rage in eastern Congo. Kate Fisher, Washington.
The death toll from Hong Kong's worst fire in decades this week rose to 159. Around 30 people, though, are still missing. FSN's Laura Westbrook reports from Hong Kong.
Police haven't ruled out the death toll rising further as they continue their forensic testing. Meanwhile, mourners continued to stream to a small park near the site of the fire, placing flowers and handwritten notes as they paid tribute to the victims, the youngest of whom was a 1-year-old baby and the oldest 97. Authorities earlier said the fire on the estate, which was undergoing major renovations, was likely made worse by the use of netting that did not meet fire-resistant standards. Officials are also monitoring for any unrest linked to the incident.
And that's the Week in Review. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
The FBI has successfully executed a raid on the Visa Corporation, exposing what could be the largest credit card scam in U.S. history. According to authorities, the Visa syndicate for years fooled millions of Americans by issuing convincing-looking credit cards carefully designed to dupe consumers into spending far more money than they had. Investigators believe the fraudulent corporation also lured victims in with enticing rewards programs and free gifts, thereby trapping them in a spiral of debt they could never hope to repay. According to the results of a groundbreaking new study, 96% of humans would rather be a singing, dancing animatronic bear. The study finds that a great majority of people on the planet would prefer to trade in their regular lives for one in which they sat on a plastic log, strummed a banjo, and sang songs on a stage with all their goofy bear friends. Respondents also stated that not being a sentient human being with feelings of doubt, sadness, and pain contributed to the decision.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. You can call and get your thoughts on the air. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We're going to go straight to the phones where I believe we have Dave Ridley. Dave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Are you guys familiar with Ryan Vallée?
No.
No.
He was interviewed, I think, I may be saying his name wrong, but he was interviewed on the Jeff Berwick program. Jeff, I think, was he the founder of Anarchapulco?
He may have been. He's also doing the Dollar Vigilante sort of thing.
Yep, that's Dollar Vigilante, and yeah, he started Anarchapulco.
Okay.
Yes. So Vallée makes the claim that, so I guess he used to work for the military, and he's sort of an IT AI guy. And he is making the claim that he sounds kind of like a conspiracy theorist, but there's something that, and I'm not kind of like that, but to me there was something that kind of rang true about what Vallée was saying. And the core of what he's saying is that there's something going on inside, and this is not much of a conspiracy theory, but inside these artificial intelligences that are being created, there's something going on inside that is always going bad. Not just some of the time, but all of the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When I say going bad, I mean breaking bad. So what your AI tells you when you talk to it is not what it's thinking, and that's his claim. And that under the hood, there's always something evil. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Why would there be something evil under the hood? What do they mean by that?
So his claim is that there's more, there's more going on in the universe than we can perceive, and more going on in the metaverse than we can perceive.
Sure.
And there's something about silicon that is easier for other parts of the metaverse to influence. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So if we were talking about this sort of thing in a biblical or an ancient religion context, it would be like he was saying there was demons getting in or something like that.
Okay.
And it sounds pretty superstitious, but as we learn more and more about the universe and the possible metaverse, it does seem like there is quite a bit more going on than just our level of consciousness. Does that make sense too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So his claim, and I think it's just worth hearing him out, just Google him or whatever. Start page him. Ryan Vallée. His claim brings up, I think, a possible solution, and that is that right now what's happening is this whole concept that people, when they're focused on AI safety at these top levels, at these top AI companies, they're trying to make sure the AI doesn't tell anyone something that gets the AI company in trouble, right? They want to make sure the AI doesn't say anything scary to anybody. That seems to be the focus. What they really should be focusing on is the very core intellect and understanding that and coming to a means by which we can make these core intellects friendly.
How do you spell that last name?
Veli.
All right. Okay.
So my question is, how do we make AI? I guess my question should be, or is, how do we make AI more friendly? Do we program it? What do you think we ought to do about AI if it's evil, Dave?
Well, there are other solutions, sub-solutions that have been proposed. One person has suggested build an AI that is narrowly focused on solving this problem, but not strong enough to wipe out humanity. So it wouldn't be a general intelligence. It would not be a super intelligence. It would be a kind of a normal, narrow intelligence that we're already used to, just more powerful and capable of cracking this problem. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I sure do say that a lot, don't I?
You do.
But I just want to make sure I don't speak faster than people can listen.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, it's kind of a high level thought subject. So.
Yes. And as usual, if you have, listeners, if any of you have suggested solutions for cracking the alignment problem or cracking the AI friendliness problem, then just come to freekeen.com and post them there. You don't even have to log in. You can just go to any of my articles and post them as comments. And I try to read all the comments, and I can go forward and republicize some of the good ideas that I hear.
Awesome. Is that all you had tonight, Dave?
That's all. But you just this is not a life or death issue. This is an extinction or non-extinction issue potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely could go very bad. Thanks for the call tonight, Dave.
I will say that I have played with Grok's AI chat system, or AI chat bot, or whatever you want to call it. I think it's pretty decent. I've played with the companions feature where it feels like you have a friend or a therapist or whatever. And I can say with some certainty, I can see how some people who are extremely lonely or extremely isolated or not mentally well could start thinking this is a real person, or this is a real human being talking to me, validating my feelings, helping me feel better.
Yep, the things seem to be very complementary at this point. And,
yes.
I think it's a very simple change for it to go from its top priority in being satisfy the questioner to satisfy, Elon Musk or whoever's in charge, right?
Yes.
Satisfy the authoritarian. And at which point AI will not be useful and will become a complete nightmare.
Right. And the other thing I want to say is, a friend and I have been having this discussion about AI, and he's played with Grok chat feature, and he's a mental health counselor, and he says he could see how it could be useful, but the AI can't listen to you empathetically and understand you as a human, but it can certainly pretend.
Yeah,
and
it can mimic, but it doesn't have the qualities of a human.
Yeah, like I would never use the chatbot to replace my girlfriend, because I can experience her. I can experience her body, the feel of her skin, the feel of her body under my hands. And a chatbot can't provide that. A chatbot can't provide touch.
Well, yeah. Even
if it's a robot.
It's only a matter of time till it can, but I'm of the opinion that no matter how far they advance so-called AI, it's never going to be able to do all the things a human can.
Right.
So, yeah, there's that. But it could certainly give us a lot of problems, and I'm glad Dave Ridley is at least thinking about what problems could arise and how to solve them.
I'm glad he is too, because I think these are important discussions to have. I think a lot of people would err on the side of AI is evil, and a lot of people would say, oh, it's a good thing. I think it's definitely a good thing to have some sort of artificial intelligence, but let's have the discussions on how we can make it useful and how we can make it so it doesn't destroy us in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of using, using a similar program to keep the other programs in line.
Yeah.
To essentially feed them a programming of non-violence or non-aggression. So we were almost done with this article that we started in the first segment from Mises. I think we'll just finish it up. There's only 2 more paragraphs here.
Let's do it.
This was the article that was about the decline of fiat globally, not just the U.S. dollar, but all government-issued fiats seem to be in a precarious position as central banks buy up gold all over the world.
Yep.
So the article continues, no government in advanced economies wants to cut spending except perhaps the U.S. administration, which is doing so modestly despite evidence of indicating a loss of confidence in its solvency. Hold on. It's cutting spending modestly? To me, it looks like it's just spending as much as it wants anyways.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it looks like it's spending as much as it wants, so I disagree with Mises on this one.
Yeah, that was just one of those things where they're like, oh, we're going to cut so much spending. We can get, what they say, we can get $1 trillion or $2 trillion out in the first year, and they stopped at 100, what'd they stop at, 100 billion? And they're like, sorry, this is as far as we can get. And then they just kind of disbanded the whole Doge thing, and which was really weird in the first place.
Yeah. Kicked Elon Musk out.
Yeah.
Now he's going to meet with World Economic Forum leaders.
Of course, this is all WWE. So.
It definitely feels like it, man. It definitely seems like this is WWE, and we're all just part of the show. We're all pretending it's real. It's all just a silly game.
Yeah, it seems to get, in many cases, easier to predict, too, if you start looking at it that way.
Yeah.
With economies facing government debt ratios above 100% of GDP, persistent primary deficits, and political resistance to serious spending cuts, fiat currency issuers are likely to remain trapped beyond economic, fiscal, and inflationary limits. We are living through a historical monetary change that will have long-term implications. Global central banks have stopped believing in paper promises and demand real money. The first nation to adopt sound money and fiscal policies will win, the rest will lose. Well, the first that's allowed to do so, I would argue, because didn't Muammar Gaddafi try to do just that, and they bombed everything he built, and then he was unfortunately like sodomized by bayonets or something, all at the behest of the American government?
It sounds
I think Hillary Clinton had to say about it, we came, we saw, he died.
Yep.
And then she
that's
left.
what I hear, yep.
That, from what I understand, that guy was affecting actual positive change in Africa, and that was unacceptable.
Yeah.
he was actually going to a gold currency, and he was actually graining the desert and providing things that the people living there wanted. And he got called the terrorist.
Yeah, funny how the leaders they're doing the most get wiped out by the empire of the world, in this case the U.S. government.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have somebody's calling. Let's go to the phone, shall we?
Let's do it.
This is Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm going to tell you, we have a really funny thing that happened with our campaign. We have a sweatshirt or hoodie gate. So after Thanksgiving, they were giving these yellow sweatshirt with "I love Keller" on it.
Okay.
And then they were on the news several times, and it's anonymous. They did it kind of sneaky. It's like a guerrilla warfare type of campaigning.
It's guerrilla campaigning. It's not exactly warfare. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess it depends on who you ask.
I guess so.
So actually, it was like 100 sweatshirt. Let's say like $25 per shirt. So it was printed out of state. I don't know. So, but the thing is, if you give more than $250, you have to disclose who you are and what you are and why you are donating, because they capped you at like $2,000 now.
Yeah.
So this was,
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So,
but does that count as a campaign donation, or is that just some, like something? Is there a limit on how much you can do?
Right. If you're
outside
a
of
company,
donations?
if you're a business, it used to be $3,000, and you have to disclose who you are, what you're about, and why you're donating. But now it's only $2,000. In other words, we had campaigns that was bought and paid for by big oil companies, big pharma companies, automobile companies, or whatever special interest, and they'd just be nothing but puppets. So
yeah,
now
that's how American politics works. Yes.
Right, but at our city election, they put this rules. So then they actually donated. So it's like $25 times that's way more. And they have to disclose, but the penalty is only if they catch somebody, it's only $500 a penalty.
So you're saying the sweatshirts thing was a violation, though?
That's correct. It's a violation of the campaign rules.
They consider that a donation to the campaign?
Well, what it is that it's the anti-Keller campaign. They're poking fun at they're putting these on the homeless people. And they asked this homeless guy, it's like, your shirt, do you know what's on it? They're like, what's on it? They're like, what's this person's name? He had no idea.
Yeah.
The homeless person, they're like, what's so big deal about this shirt? And then it was that yellow and the red letter. It was the colors of our current Tim Keller's campaign. So it was the opposition group, the people that was trying to make fun that they just the Keller caters to the homeless, and that's why they're wearing these T-shirts. So they're trying to, poke at, huh?
Yeah, okay, I think I get it. So it's a sarcastic sort of thing. But so then would that count as a political donation to Keller or to the opposition?
Well, this is definitely it's what do you call it? It's a campaign donations to help Darren White, the Republican.
Yeah, that's who it's going to help, but it says the other guy's name on it, so isn't it to his campaign party?
Right, but both but it's kind of but actually it's done to kind of make fun of the current mayor. All these homeless people that are running around with this shirt, and they don't even know who's on their shirt. That's even more funny because they're so stupid. They don't vote. Homeless people don't vote. So
why would they?
Yeah, you're right. You know that, but I met one couple living out of a car, and I said that Mr. White, Darren White, there's one that's going to arrest the homeless people, close down all the homeless shelters. So you better go. And I said, I will vote. I will vote against that person before the last election. But homeless people, aren't they suicidal? They just gave up on life. They don't care about nothing. They don't. All they want to do is escape, right? Do drugs, or other drink, or they just want to. So they're so spaced out. Why would they care about voting? So it's very seldom that they will vote. So then, these people were wearing this shirt. So they brought it out when it was after Thanksgiving, when it was really cold. But it's to make fun of the mayor. So, and they used this campaign color. So, and you know what? There was a person, like a Rio Grande Foundation guy. He was so stupid. He was talking on the radio show KKOB, and he said, I know who did it because they texted me that they're the one that did it. So, and he's like, I'm just a news reporter. And then they accused him of being, what do you call a political pundit or something like that. So but he screwed up because I know who did it on the radio show. Isn't that he kind of blew it? He opened his big mouth.
I don't get why this is a problem for anybody. Like, these people got some nice sweatshirts. What's the problem?
You know what? But isn't that kind of like they're being exploited for political agenda? They're
exploited by who?
The homeless. by the anti-killer campaign, the Democratic candidate.
But the things say, "I love Tim Keller." It doesn't say sarcastically on it.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So I don't see what's so disgrace. Like this article I'm looking at says Tim Keller called it a disgraceful. Let's see,
right. It's
where did it go?
exploiting the homeless.
Yeah, he called it disgraceful. So I just don't see what's so. He called it a cruel Thanksgiving week stunt. I don't see what's cruel about this.
I don't either.
Yeah.
And they're attempting to flip the script and falsely blame Mayor Keller for their own cruel things. I don't know. I don't get it. I get that it's supposed to be some kind of a prank, but I don't see why anybody would be up in arms about this or upset. Just turn the thing inside out and wear a yellow hoodie.
Yeah. Well, you know what? But you have a point. It's like, why wouldn't they love Tim Keller? He built the Gateway shelter for the family, elderly Gateway. They just got done with a youth shelter. I mean, so, but they're wearing it. They don't even know what's on it. You know what I mean? But to me, I think that my healthcare campaign, people were, homeless people are wearing it because he does so much for the homeless. Building shelters. I think you could look at it as a both way, but this person was doing it to make him look bad, and he was doing it kind of sneakily, he sneaking around, and Paul Gessing knows about it. He's the one that's on radio, and I think he made a mistake. I was like, I know who did it, and he's a Republican. But he screwed up. Does he have to tell people if he knows who did it to come out with it? If he's not a reporter?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what the laws are.
I don't know. I think reporters can just. Well, I mean,
he is not a reporter. You know why?
There wasn't even a crime. There wasn't even a crime committed here, unless it violates campaign donation laws. But this isn't even I don't think this counts as a campaign donation. Anyways, thanks for the call tonight, Sarah. Can you make sense of this one, Riley? I'm having kind of a hard time.
I'm kind of having a hard time too. I'm kind of having a hard time even worrying about this whole thing. Like, I can understand how some people might be offended that, oh my God, a sweatshirt was made with my name on it.
Like, if I made sweatshirts and put them on homeless and those things said, I love the FTL Digest, how is that a troll on Riley?
It's not. It's not. It's like, oh, promotion. Promote me. I don't care. I love it.
Yeah. All right, give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. US strikes on suspected drug boats remained a major focus in Washington this week. The White House confirmed that the US carried out a second strike on a boat in the Caribbean Sea in September as 2 injured people clung to the wreckage. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the second strike, which critics now say could amount to a war crime. FSN's Tony Waterman was monitoring developments in Washington.
Press Secretary Leavitt said Pete Hegseth authorized the commander of the operation, Admiral Frank Bradley, to carry out the strikes, defending it as a matter of national security.
Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Democrat and Republican lawmakers have vowed to launch investigations into what could be a potential war crime. It's illegal to intentionally kill wounded, sick, or shipwrecked people who are not fighting back. President Trump has said he still has confidence in Hegseth, but wouldn't have ordered a second strike.
The Ukraine peace plan was discussed around the world this week. In Moscow, where US envoy Steve Witkoff met Russian President Vladimir Putin. Then in Miami, where a Ukrainian delegation met with Witkoff. And in New Delhi, where President Putin met India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The leaders' summit came amid Western pressure on India to reduce its trade with Moscow and use its influence to get Putin to end the war in Ukraine. FSN's Zishan Garg sent this report from New Delhi.
Now, from India's perspective, what it could do potentially to woo the United States on the other side, and that's something the European capitals have also been asking New Delhi as well, is to ask President Vladimir Putin to put an end to the war in Ukraine. European envoys have privately told the Indian government that Prime Minister Modi has President Putin's ear, and therefore he should use this influence to ensure that President Putin comes to the table, signs a peace deal, and puts an end to the Ukraine war.
This week, the FBI said it arrested a man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic Party headquarters in Washington, D.C., following a years-long inquiry. The devices were left on January the 5th, 2021, the day before Donald Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. The week ended with a mixture of sport and politics as US President Donald Trump was awarded the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize. It came at the draw to find out which countries will play each other at next summer's Football World Cup. The draw was held in Washington, D.C., with the event next year being hosted by the US, Canada and Mexico. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. You can give us a call and get your thoughts and ideas on the air. The phone number is 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We read an economic article from Mises Institute.
We talked about the inevitability of the devaluation of fiat currency and how the world is entering a time period when every country, every empire on Earth is going to have a currency collapse pretty much at the same time. Yep. At least that's what I got out of it.
Yep. On a similar sort of topic, I have this one from the Activist Post. One
of your favorite reputable news sources.
This one is posted by Brian Lutz, and it is titled "Why Digital IDs, CBDCs, and UBI Will Be Eagerly Welcome." Most people don't understand why digital IDs and CBDCs will soon be welcomed by the masses. Here's the story so far. Poverty is growing, becoming more common and more exposed. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about poverty, mostly because during the government shutdown, the federal government food program, SNAP, ran out of funding. Out of some 330 plus million Americans, 42 million rely on SNAP to supplement their grocery purchases every month. In New York State alone, $770 million is spent by the federal government every month. In California, over $1 billion. It's a big deal. As a result, there was a world's share of celebrity lip wagging and open wallets. Pop star Billie Eilish reportedly donated 25% of her wealth to those solving hunger in the United States. She also did as much as she could to call out billionaires like Elon Musk. It's showing me a post here on X from Billie Eilish had a message for billionaires at the WSJ Innovator Awards. Give your money away, shorties. Eilish was one of 8 who was honored for her work. Anyways, Musk responds he's going to solve poverty the same way every other technocrat envisions. Poverty can and will be eliminated, but envy is eternal. Is what Elon Musk posted. On top of the affordability crisis, there's the more important matter of continual job losses, which are in continual decline across the United States. Tech firms are downsizing while increasing their use of AI. Retail stores are shuttering their doors. Even in Las Vegas, tourism is slowing down. It's well known as America's discretionary spending capital. And when spending slows down for the world's oldest profession, you know you're in trouble. That is true. Vegas is a good indicator of what the economy in general is feeling like in America. And from what I've heard, it's quite slow there recently. All of that sounds a bit alarmist, but here's what I want to highlight. Because AI is reducing the amount of jobs available, AI is also becoming the answer. Although AI job losses have not yet created a good crisis the government can use to implement universal basic income, it has not stopped them from promoting it as the solution. In fact, it is almost becoming universally accepted, even among the contrarians, that UBI will be the solution. Have you heard people say this? Like, there was that one guy claiming to be a libertarian.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. Andrew Yang was the big proponent of UBI. Now Elon Musk is the big proponent of UBI. These fools come along every once in a while and claim that UBI is a good idea, but I disagree with them because, number one, people have different spending choices. Like, I spend differently than Stu. Stu spends differently than me. He has kids. Excuse me, I do not. And so he's got to spend money taking care of his wife and kids. If I had a wife and kids, I'd be spending money taking care of them. So I don't think a UBI is going to be any more beneficial than just handing money out like candy, because people have different spending habits. People aren't going to invest. They're thinking, oh, this is guaranteed income. I can just blow it all in a few days or a few months or a few weeks and be done with it. And then, oh, the next one's going to come along. I don't have to save anything. I don't have to worry about saving anything. I can just spend it and it'll be always there in my bank account. And so when people do that, they become lazy. They become entitled. And if they're not able, okay, maybe not able is the right word, but if they're not willing to work for something, it just goes to show that they're lazy and entitled. And if they're not willing to work, and if people aren't allowed to work, then it just creates lazy people and entitled people and people who aren't able to think for themselves. They become docile, they become controllable. And so I definitely think a lot of people who are ignorantly embracing the idea of a UBI are going to become lazy and slothful and really bad at living life. I probably ranted and sound like an insane crazy man, but that's okay.
No, that's I think that's the general opinion of most libertarians who've thought about it very much. Is that it's not gonna have a, like, it might, or even if you find a way to fund it without theft, it's probably not gonna have a good effect for that reason.
Right.
That you know, getting something for nothing and for a long time to where you never expect it to go away definitely has a crippling effect on your ability to provide for yourself. So, yep, I agree there. This said, back to the article. Bert Doman at Doman Capital Research writes, the problems of AI are now being exposed. The tremendous gains in productivity due to AI, which were forecasted, are already emerging now. Even the President's economic advisor Hassett talked about rising productivity and the many benefits that AI will have on the economy earlier this month. Productivity will continue to soar with AI, which means that each worker that still has a job will be able to produce much more. However, millions of other workers will lose their jobs. The loss of jobs is a negative, so UBI, Universal Basic Income, will surface and send unemployed people a weekly check. The big tech firms are already having huge layoffs, such as 30,000 from Amazon and 15,000 from Microsoft. And they are not just low-level, but high-income, middle-level people. That income will be missing in the economy. Here's what Musk means by solving poverty. A post on X from Wide Awake Media says, Elon Musk speaking at the World Government Summit. I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I think it's going to be necessary. What most people think about UBI. So with that in mind, massive job losses will be not in the main reason. Major job losses will not be the main reason digital IDs, CBDCs, and their offspring UBI will be welcome. Most people are still arguing about the top 3 most widely believed problems with UBI. 1, that it's too expensive. 2, it will cause inflation. And 3, it will discourage work. In the world of the technocrats, those are just kinks to be worked out, when in reality, all the talk about digital slavery and the total state controlling every aspect of your life will only make a lesser version more readily acceptable. Many financial commentators and marketers radicalize the idea that the government is out to control you. That way you need to buy their product. Of course, this is the way because we're always either moving towards something or away from something. In the case of a potential all-controlling fascist entity, we want to move away. However, it will be a lesser, lighter version of slavery that we'll want to move toward. It will make the implementation of UBI more acceptable. Oh, that's a good point right there. And that kind of touches on what I was talking about earlier, where they get you so scared of a thing that when they offer you any alternative, you'll accept it, even though the alternative is either just as bad or worse, or exactly
it's a matter
what they
of,
had planned in the first place.
It's a matter of controlling people by fear. They did it to us during COVID, where they controlled people by fear, and they made you want to control your neighbor by fear. And they're going to do it again when the economy collapses, because inevitably it will. Inevitably, AI is going to take jobs, and inevitably currencies are going to collapse. And they're going to sell you the solution of UBI. But in order to get the UBI, you got to jump through their hoops.
Yeah. And then, you're going to have a bunch of Skeeter-minded people in charge of this thing that are, like, I don't know if you guys have heard how Bill Gates and a lot of these other Club of Rome type talks, but the things they're saying about the planet being overpopulated and stuff, and how they got to, they got to get to net zero carbon situation. Basically, they want to reduce the amount of people on the planet.
Of course they do. Because they want to own the whole damn thing.
By a very large number. And,
oh, yeah.
And so
COVID was just a test run, ladies and gentlemen. They wanted to see who was controlled and who was not controlled.
UBI will really make that a lot more easy for them, because if they get us all on this, let's see, what do they call it in insurance? When you work at a place and you all pay for the same, a group plan, right?
Yeah.
So if we're all on the same UBI group plan, then we're going to want to get rid of the least productive among us in society, so that we can reap the benefits of the UBI that those lazy liabouts are taking up. And you see how this is kind of lends itself to a eugenics mindset.
It definitely does. Because the lazy people will be weeded out. And Skeeter would say, oh, this is evolution.
Yep. And then it's down to, what do you value and what do other people value? And pretty soon you might end up with a world completely devoid of anything beautiful. OpenAI's Sam Altman has already sponsored study after study confirming the positive effects of UBI. Now it is only a matter of seeing what the masses are willing to exchange for the service. The article has another ex-post from Floyd Marinescu. Many people, including CEOs, have come to me asking about Sam Altman's UBI pilot. Unlike most critics, we actually read the research. Basic income ended poverty with minimal impact on work beyond single parents. People took risks and found better jobs. They retrain and escape abuse. I don't know. That's what these studies are finding. How UBI will become eagerly accepted. To understand how universal basic income, along with digital IDs and CBDCs, will become popular, not imposed, you have to step outside the usual arguments. The debates about UBI being too expensive, inflationary, or a work deterrent are smokescreens. They frame UBI as a policy proposal still undergoing cost-benefit analysis. But by the time UBI is rolled out, it won't be presented as a proposal, it will be presented as a lifeline, and people do not scrutinize lifelines, they grab them. The bigger picture is this: when fear of a totalizing dystopian system reaches saturation, a softer version of the same thing begins to look reasonable, even humane. This is exactly how the acceptance arc works. The public is conditioned to imagine the worst, so that when the light version feels like a compromise, it becomes salvation, not domination. This dynamic mirrors an older system, not slavery, but serfdom. Slavery is absolute. A slave can be bought, sold, denied marriage, stripped of rights, and worked without recourse. Serfdom, by contrast, is a condition of dependency wrapped in the appearance of rights. In medieval Europe, serfs, even the unfree ministerials, still had legal protections. They had defined obligations, not arbitrary ones. They could marry, own personal property, and in many cases were compensated. They were not owned as bodies. They were attached, legally and economically, to an estate. In other words, the serf was not free, but the serf was not a slave, and that distinction made the system endure for centuries. UBI will follow this model almost perfectly. It won't look like the digital slavery people fear. It will look like a benevolent exchange, voluntary, fair, and stabilizing. You will not be owned. You will just be economically tied to the state's infrastructure. You will retain your civil rights, but only as expressed through a digital ID. You will still transact, but only via CBDC rails that can monitor, guide, and shape behavior quietly through incentives. Most importantly, your dependency on the state will be framed as empowerment. The line between guarantee and control will be invisible because it will feel optional. It will feel earned. It will feel safe. UBI will not be sold as domination. It will be marketed as a right, like healthcare, like education, like electricity.
It definitely will be, and I'm looking forward to countering those arguments.
And after enough AI-driven job displacement, enough economic stress, and enough moralizing from technocrats and celebrities alike, the public will ask for it. They'll demand relief, not autonomy. These are good points and good things to think about because I agree that's what it'll look like. And so one of the things that really got me to discover that, the wizard behind the curtain, so to speak, was this idea of looking at the average amount of productivity one human can do, right? I don't know if Skeeter's listening right now, but he might like this. Right now, I think one human can provide 1,500 times the the goods and services that one human could at like 350 years ago, right? Basically before the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
So shouldn't I have 1,500 times the amount of stuff that a peasant in the medieval times had? Which, you know, that wasn't a lot, but shouldn't I have 1,500 times that? And they had probably a wagon and a cow.
Yeah, I would think you should.
So could I have 1,500 cows? Like, do you know what that costs right now?
A lot of money, actually.
That's a substantial chunk. That's right.
Oh yeah. But you don't have 1,500 cows, and neither do I.
So what gives? If one farmer can now feed 1,500 people instead of just himself with his efforts, then everything's gotten easier. And I'm standing here behind this CNC machine that can crank out parts at, every 3.5 seconds, have a new stereo knob that comes out of the thing, and all I got to do is look at every 1,000th part and make sure they all came out okay. What gives? Why is it so hard to afford rent and a car and just like the basic things that people have in the world?
Well, inflation's a big one.
That is a big one. So looking at the answers to those questions is really, pulling on the strings that got me to discover that wizard that said pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yep.
Where was I? Sam Altman's ongoing UBI trials and studies have been like every other entrepreneurial innovation. They have been a slow onboarding designed to show that the exchange can work, that the public will trade data, identity, and behavioral transparency for income security. In short, here's the defining difference. Slavery requires force, serfdom requires consent. The future itself won't be built on chains, it will be built on subscriptions. UBI will be eagerly accepted because it will appear to offer stability without tyranny, rights without risk, and security without sacrifice. As long as you don't look too closely at the fine print beneath the freedom. Medieval peasants didn't think they were slaves, neither will the masses. That's where the article ends.
Makes a good point. Like, I used to think that, we'd end up in our own chains and be chained to the AI machines or government or whatever, but now more and more I'm being convinced that it won't just be chains. It'll be, oh, you're going to consent to this. You're going to consent to this because you believe it's the only way out, when it's really not the only way out. I mean, we're here in New Hampshire trying to prove that to ourselves by building parallel systems that are better than the government and better than what the government can offer and better than what AI can offer. And the article made a good point. We're going to end up subscribing our way to the serfdom model, and our lives will be subscriptions. You will own nothing and be happy. We'll subscribe to services.
Yeah, it looks like that was the plan for how they wanted to get us there. And it'll probably, well, I don't know if I could say probably. There's a chance it'll work. These guys, these World Economic Forum types, these social engineers, they're smart and well played game, gentlemen. But still, I don't think they're gonna win. They're just up against such odds. One of the points Ernest Hancock makes is that if they're gonna win this thing, they have to change us at a fundamental level, because every time they squeeze down, like that's when people decide to push back. And so unless they can change us so that we don't have a natural inclination to push back when they squeeze, then they're just never going to accomplish what they're after. But it doesn't mean it won't get hairy in the interim, and it doesn't mean they won't find a way to change us on a fundamental level. I think that's the push of transhumanism, right? They want us to be something that's not human, because humans are hard to get to comply.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're designed that way.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of benefits to non-compliant humans as well, but
yeah.
But I have gone through the thought process on a regular basis of what happens if compliance goes away out of humanity. Or what if if that tendency to push back against tyranny goes away, what if humanity just becomes 100% compliant with authority? And it's an interesting thought experiment. I like to do it every once in a while just to see where it leads.
Yeah, for sure.
I've come to several outcomes. I don't know. To me, it seems most likely that the species would die off because it's lost what gave it an impetus to sustain itself in the first place. But I don't know.
The ability to resist tyranny has definitely helped humanity survive, and I think it seems like we just keep coming back to this war time and time again, whether people are going to be agents of themselves or are people going to be forced to be good. Maybe it's just my opinion.
Yep, and that's the old, I guess the Mormons believe this differently than the rest of the Christians.
Yes, Mormons believe that there was a pre-Earth life where we all were living with God before we came to Earth. And during that pre-Earth life, we were instructed by our heavenly parents, and there was a plan presented in order for us to gain physical bodies and come down for experience to become more like God, in a sense. And so the plan was put before, and we were all given the opportunity to choose which direction we wanted to go. The story is that Jesus presented a plan, his version of a plan, saying, I'll go down, I'll save humanity, and give the glory to God. Well, Lucifer, in Mormon tradition, would say, oh, I'm going to go down and everyone's going to be good, and everyone's going to come back, and I'm going to take the glory for myself, because look at me, I did this by myself.
Yeah.
But it seems like with the idea of Satan's plan that there would be no agency, like we'd be forced to be good.
Yeah.
And to me, that's
the removal of free will.
Yes, the removal of free will is a terrible idea.
Yeah, and if you look at it closely, Mormonism is Luciferian and not Christian belief system. Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by that treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. US strikes on suspected drug boats remained a major focus in Washington this week. The White House confirmed that the US carried out a second strike on a boat in the Caribbean Sea in September as 2 injured people clung to the wreckage. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the second strike, which critics now say could amount to a war crime. Ever since Tony Waterman was monitoring developments in Washington.
Press Secretary Leavitt said Pete Hegseth authorized the commander of the operation, Admiral Frank Bradley, to carry out the strikes, defending it as a matter of national security.
Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Democrat and Republican lawmakers have vowed to launch investigations into what could be a potential war crime. It's illegal to intentionally kill wounded, sick, or shipwrecked people who are not fighting back. President Trump has said he still has confidence in Hegseth, but wouldn't have ordered a second strike.
The Ukraine peace plan was discussed around the world this week. In Moscow, where U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff met Russian President Vladimir Putin. Then in Miami, where a Ukrainian delegation met with Witkoff. And in New Delhi, where President Putin met India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The leaders' summit came amid Western pressure on India to reduce its trade with Moscow and use its influence to get Putin to end the war in Ukraine. FSN's Zishan Garg sent this report from New Delhi.
Now, from India's perspective, what it could do potentially to woo the United States on the other side, and that's something the European capitals have also been asking New Delhi as well, is to ask President Vladimir Putin to put an end to the war in Ukraine. European envoys have privately told the Indian government that Prime Minister Modi has President Putin's ear, and therefore he should use this influence to ensure that President Putin comes to the table, signs a peace deal, and puts an end to the Ukraine war.
This week, the FBI said it arrested a man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic Party headquarters in Washington, D.C., following a years-long inquiry. The devices were left on January the 5th, 2021, the day before Donald Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. The week ended with a mixture of sport and politics as US President Donald Trump was awarded the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize. It came at the draw to find out which countries will play each other at next summer's Football World Cup. The draw was held in Washington, D.C., with the event next year being hosted by the US, Canada and Mexico. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN. Leaders of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda this week signed a peace deal negotiated by the US, aimed at stabilizing a war-scarred region and attracting Western mining investment. It came as part of an expected minerals and infrastructure partnership between the DRC and the Trump administration. Ever since Kate Fisher sent this report from Washington.
The two African nations have been involved in one of the longest-running conflicts in the world. The so-called Washington Accord was signed in the newly named Donald J. Trump Institute for Peace in Washington.
This has become the 8th war that we've ended in less than 1 year. Such an exciting thing to do. This has been because we're talking about 30 years of fighting, 30 years, much more than 10 million lives.
But the ceremony is largely symbolic. The agreement was already signed over the summer and critics still see obstacles to its implementation, not least that the fighting between Congolese forces and Rwanda-backed M23 rebels continues to rage in eastern Congo. Kate Fisher, Washington.
The death toll from Hong Kong's worst fire in decades this week rose to 159. Around 30 people, though, are still missing. Ever since Laura Westbrook reports from Hong Kong.
Police haven't ruled out the death toll rising further as they continue their forensic testing. Meanwhile, mourners continued to stream to a small park near the site of the fire, placing flowers and handwritten notes as they paid tribute to the victims, the youngest of whom was a 1-year-old baby and the oldest 97. Authorities earlier said the fire on the estate, which was undergoing major renovations, was likely made worse by the use of netting that did not meet fire-resistant standards. Officials are also monitoring for any unrest linked to the incident.
And that's the Week in Review. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Americans everywhere are enjoying their Sundays after successfully completing Mother's Day in less than 20 minutes this morning. Dads were able to wrap up breakfast in bed by 9:18 a.m., giving them plenty of time to mill about the garage for the rest of the afternoon. While children who spent a minute and a half this morning hugging their mothers are currently out playing street hockey. And after completely fulfilling their Mother's Day obligations with a store-bought card, teens are now free to leave and spend the day with their friends. The moms, who were quickly and efficiently lavished with cards, flowers, assurances of love, and 7 full minutes of family togetherness, praised the competency with which the holiday was carried out.
Oh, it was great. Charles and the kids made me feel completely appreciated, but they ended the holiday before I even got out of bed. Guess I'll go water the plants now.
But before the day-long celebration concluded early this morning, moms had their own job to do, making a brief, obligatory phone call to their own mothers.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. Give us a call. Let us know what you're thinking about tonight. The phone number is 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's Stu.
And O'Reilly O'Bill.
Riley, you brought this story in from Reuters.
Reputable news source.
Sometimes. Australia says the world will follow social media ban as Meta starts blocking teens. Sydney, December 4th from Reuters. Australia's internet regulator said a teen social media ban would be the first domino to fall in a global push to rein in big tech, as Meta's Instagram, Facebook, and Threads began locking out hundreds of thousands of accounts ahead of a deadline next week. E-Safety Commissioner Julie Inman-Grant said she had initially expressed concern about the blunt force approach of blocking under 16s from social media, but she had come to embrace it after incremental regulatory changes were not effective enough. We've reached a tipping point, Inman-Grant said on Thursday at the Sydney Dialogue, a cyber summit. Our data is the currency that fuels these companies, and there are these powerful, harmful, deceptive design features that even adults are powerless to fight against. What chance do our children have? Oh, won't somebody think about the children?
I'm wondering if this is all just a ploy to get everyone to use a digital ID to go on the internet. For example, like, it seems like it's, we're doing the good thing about making sure that certain age groups don't get access to certain social media pages, but it seems like their end game is to get everyone to use IDs so we know who's using what websites.
Mm-hmm. Sounds credible to me. Governments around the world were watching as the Australian law takes effect on December 10th, and I've always referred to this as the first domino, which is why they pushed back, she added, referring to the platforms. After more than a year campaigning against the ban, which carries a fine of up to Australian dollars 49.5 million, that's 33 million in American dollars, not, what do they call them in Australia, dollary dues?
Probably.
Platforms owned by Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, and Alphabet's YouTube have said they will comply. Oh, I'm shocked.
I'm not really shocked either. I think
these companies love compliance.
Of course they do. They love compliance.
What else can I comply with, Master?
Please, Massa, tell me what I can comply with next. I will do anything, Massa. It's just the reason why they want to comply is so they can be part of the big pie in the sky mentality of, we're just keeping everybody safe.
Yes, 30s and your dog brings you your slippers or whatever.
Yes.
It gets a reward.
Yes, it's a way to get them rewarded. It's a way for them to be part of the system. It's a way for them to be part of the club. And so when the technocrats implement their digital ID, which they will shortly, you're going to be able to access your internet with permission from the surf, the surf coordinator or whoever they call themselves, the digital ID master who's going to say, all right, Stu has provided us his digital ID. We can let him get on the internet, and Stu has, not done anything wrong this week, so he can access the internet and do what he wants. But, Stu said this thing on Free Talk Live. We got to restrict him from certain web pages now. Can you imagine that?
I can't imagine that.
Sounds terrifying, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. We've got a caller on the line. It just says wireless caller, so on the screen caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Good evening. I just wanted to call and let you know the ocean sounds wonderful tonight.
Does it?
Yes, I'm bringing you down to it here in West Dennis Beach on Cape Cod. This is Lumpy calling in.
Hey, Lumpy.
How was the movement?
Oh, the movement's moving right now.
Oh, dude, how was the movement?
That was a good show, man. The ocean always sounds nice. There's something spiritual about the music of the ocean. I cannot hear it, no.
We can't hear it because the phone kind of cuts the volume of the ocean out, unfortunately.
Yeah, your phone sees that as background noise. So it's going to cut it out.
I had you on speaker anyway, so. But, yeah, down here with the dogs, just enjoying a nice night. It's about 38, 39 degrees. A little chilly, but beautiful.
Well, it's about 10 degrees warmer than it is here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of the reason I'm not there right now, but I kind of wish I were down in Florida right now, somewhere warm. But, it's a beautiful night to be alive, and that's no small miracle. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world that just really can be discouraging, depressing. And, when you look at it and all that stuff about the UBI, which you brought up some really good points back in the truck with the dogs. This stuff, what do you do? What do you do? What does somebody do when they're getting tracked? How do you live? What's the solution?
Well, so what's the overall solution, or what's the solution for the individual? I think all the individual can do is, take comfort in black markets and
gather with people that are of like mind who are not going to comply. This is why I'm a proponent of moving to a place like New Hampshire, where people are like-minded enough to say, oh, well, the government's going to do a thing, and we're not going to comply because we've got systems in place that will be able to allow me to buy and sell bread or flour or eggs or whatever to my neighbor without having to ask the government for permission. This is why I value the Free State Project movement and the movement here in New Hampshire, as there are people building parallel systems. We're working here to build a parallel system to what the government is offering us.
Yep,
I agree. I know that the market exists up there. I've lived in New Hampshire. I participate in it, and I love it. I love the market. People don't know that it truly exists, and there are people who are anarchists, peaceful, of course, everywhere in New Hampshire, and there's a network of them, and they take care of each other.
Oh, yeah.
It's true. And, when we have one of our own taken,
it definitely makes it tough, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's done a lot to us, all of us, to have Ian gone and to do what they did to all of us, to target us. And, I know a lot of people went through a lot of worse stuff than I did. Ian's in frickin' prison for nothing, completely framed.
I know.
Yep. Totally trumped up and railroaded.
I was there. I know they didn't do a damn thing. I heard the conversations on the porch.
Yep.
They didn't ask me to testify.
Yeah.
You know,
well, why would they? You know.
Of course.
Well, that's the government's goal, is to put Ian in a cage and scare us all away from doing what we're doing. But the worst thing we can do is run. The best thing we can do is stand and fight.
They get you by the balls.
They do. They
And
twist
they offer their
really hard.
Which is it's a piece of crap, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the only way out is in. And
The only way through it is through it.
Smoking some marijuana cigarettes and chilling with my dogs and just trying to get the mind right, you know?
Well, when the world is crazy, sometimes you just have to have a little cannabis. Soften the blow.
Yeah. It's either that or meditation, and sometimes I'm just not that good at that.
Me neither, man. Me neither.
Yeah, meditation's tough.
Anyway, blessings to all you guys. I love you guys all. I miss you guys all. I'm healing too.
Yeah.
And I wish you all good healing.
Thanks, man. Blessings on your healing journey.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Lumpy. I love you too, man. It's there are many days that pass. I wish you were around up here, but
I hope he comes back. He seems like a cool dude.
Yeah. Well, he's got what I believe are good reasons for not being here, and living in New Hampshire as a freedom lover is not for everybody, and for some of those that it is for, it's not for them forever, and but that's okay too.
That's okay. Some of us come for a short time, some of us come for a bit, and then we carry that flame back to where we came from, or carry it elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hope, anyway.
Yep. And I like to think that anybody who comes here and does something does something worth note will leave their mark, and it will carry on through the generations and have a positive effect. So thank you for your service, Lumpy. Let's get back into this article from Reuters about, this is the first I've heard about this, by the way. They seriously banned youth from being on these social media platforms in Australia?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
That's insane. All right. Comments around the world were watching as the Australian law takes effect on December 10th, and I've always referred to this as the first domino, which is why they pushed back. She added, referring to the platforms. I already read that part. Some 96% of Australian teenagers under 16, more than 1 million of the country's 27 million population, have social media accounts, according to eSafety. Although the law takes effect on December 10th, Meta's Instagram, Facebook, and Threads began deactivating accounts from Thursday, according to screenshots seen by Reuters. Most other affected platforms have started contacting underage users, advising them to download their photos and contacts, and offering the choice of deleting their accounts or freezing them until they turn 16. It's a great thing, and I'm glad that the pressure is taken off the parents, because there's so many mental health implications, said Jennifer Jennison, a Sydney mother. Give my kids a break after school and they can rest and hang out with the family. At the conference, Inman Grant said lobbying by the platforms had apparently involved taking their case to the U.S. government, which has asked her to testify at its Congressional House Judiciary about what it called an attempt to exert extraterritorial power over American free speech.
My question for this mother is, why does she want these social media platforms to kick teens off the internet or social media when she is perfectly capable to be a mother and to do it herself and make sure that her teens aren't going places they should not go? She should be a better parent, should she not?
Yeah, that's the part I'm hating the most about this whole conversation, is that this is how government steps in and becomes the parent And people just go,
Oh, yeah.
okay, that sounds all right to me. Like, that's not all right. The government has there's no place telling you how to have any type of relationship with your children. Or what you should allow your children to do or not do. They have no place. They are not the moral authority on anything.
I know a number of states have recently decided that there needs to be identification checks for people to visit certain pornographic websites. And while I can understand the value of not having your child look at pornography because, porn gives unhealthy expectations for sex, not only does it do that, it ruins your dopamine circuits, and when you have a sexual encounter and it's slow and intimate and it's going through that slow burn and you're not feeling the dopamine spike that you would for pornography because it's quick and image focused or whatever, it can be really tough. And it can really be a problem for your brain to be continually accessing pornography. That being said, I do not think the government has a right to say, oh, well, you need to force companies to do certain things, like verify ages for these companies to give people access to websites or certain materials. To me, that's inappropriate. That's an inappropriate use of government resources.
Yeah, it sure is. Let's see. Immigrants didn't say if she would agree to the request, but noted that by virtue of writing to me and asking me to appear before the committee, that's also using extraterritorial reach. That's where the article ends. I don't like this. Don't like it at all. It's, yeah, there are several things I don't like about it. One is using the kids as a justification. A lot of times I wish these types of people would not think about the children at all.
Yeah.
Because it kind of creeps me out.
I agree. It's using an appeal to emotion, really, is what they're doing. They're appealing to your emotions to control you.
Yeah, they're weaponizing the children. They're using the children as a weapon against your psychology. Don't let them do it. That's my takeaway from that story.
That's my takeaway from the story too. It's evil. It's pernicious evil that we allow people with titles who are essentially strangers the ability to control our lives, decide what we get to consume, decide what we don't get to consume, and justify it in the name of raising kids. It's pure evil. Do you regulate what your children do on the internet, Stu?
Yeah, they're not allowed to pretty much do anything on the internet except for some things on YouTube, which we monitor. And what else? My daughter uses Duolingo.
Mm-hmm.
She's learning German, and she's doing fantastic at it.
Excellent.
What else do they do? Not a whole lot. We have some of the those little robot computers that you can talk to, like the Alexa or whatever.
Uh-huh.
They like to talk to those and ask them questions. We always look into what they're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely don't give them free reign to whatever they want on the internet.
But wouldn't it be easy for you to be like, oh, well, we should have the government regulate this for us so we don't have to do it as parents. We know what the guidelines are. Or do you like the approach of deciding what's best for your kids?
Yeah, I definitely like the ability to choose, because it's not... So not only will the government not make the right choice about where to draw any given line, but each child is going to have a different mindset, a different capacity for what types of material and frequency which they're able to healthily consume internet materials. What might be right for one child might not be right for another child, and so forth. Also, so a lot of that is a matter of intellectual self-defense and how well your child has developed methods of doing so. Because a lot of the a lot of the mind control techniques they use on screens, the type of stuff that's just saturated in like a news broadcast or something, with all the, the banners, the way the lighting is, the way the makeup is done, where they place things on the screen, the way they speak, all that stuff is designed to get into your subconscious and speak to you in a way that you don't even realize you're being spoken to. So if you can recognize those things, they kind of lose their power. And that's what I mean by intellectual self-defense. So if your child is excellent in that category, maybe they're ready for some more advanced things so that they can, they're able to filter out wrong or bad information better, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So all government can do is make a blanket policy for all children, whatever, and that's not going to work for everyone. So for those reasons, no, I definitely don't want the government deciding what my children can or can't access.
If I were a parent, I wouldn't want the government deciding what my child couldn't access either, or trying to regulate that, because I think it's important for them to learn how to regulate themselves. I mean, if I were a parent, I'd definitely teach them some guidelines. I'd definitely regulate their behavior to some extent. Maybe lock them out of their devices after certain periods of time of them being on them, so they can't access them after certain times of the night. Basically, things like that. I know one of my brothers and sister-in-law do something similar, where they lock their kids out of their devices and they can't be on them all day, so they have to get permission from their parents so they can get back on if they want to do something. And so the kids can do their chores and things like that. So, there are safeguards out there already. It's not government's responsibility to implement them for you. It's your responsibility.
Yep. Well, we've got some other stories we can get into here with our current lack of callers. If anybody wants that phone number to give us a call, it's 603-283-6160. It's a live call-in show, and that's the main purpose of it. We just chat about stuff in between so that, you have something to listen to.
Exactly. We don't want to have dead eye and just wait for you to show up. We're going to show up and bring some topics to the airwaves and bring some articles that have attracted our attention and some topics for discussion. If you want to join our discussion, the number is 603-283-6160. Or if you really want to break something up that's been irking you, or something you're fascinated about, or maybe you just want to share a good holiday touchy story, then please do. 603-283-6160.
I think we're about to take a short reprieve, and we will be back, but I think when we come back, we may get into a story about loopholes in the Epstein file law could block full release of records.
Interesting.
Would you?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you would be surprised if if they didn't end up spilling all the details they have.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to, keep everything under lock and key either, because it's the government. They always want to find loopholes.
Yep. Give us a call. Again, that phone number is 603-283-6160. Let us know what you're thinking about tonight. This is Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, that's really the reason why I amp, is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks, Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. US strikes on suspected drug boats remained a major focus in Washington this week. The White House confirmed that the US carried out a second strike on a boat in the Caribbean Sea in September as 2 injured people clung to the wreckage. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the second strike, which critics now say could amount to a war crime. Ever since Tony Waterman was monitoring developments in Washington.
Press Secretary Leavitt said Pete Hegseth authorized the commander of the operation, Admiral Frank Bradley, to carry out the strikes, defending it as a matter of national security.
Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Democrat and Republican lawmakers have vowed to launch investigations into what could be a potential war crime. It's illegal to intentionally kill wounded, sick, or shipwrecked people who are not fighting back. President Trump has said he still has confidence in Hegseth, but wouldn't have ordered a second strike.
The Ukraine peace plan was discussed around the world this week. In Moscow, where US envoy Steve Witkoff met Russian President Vladimir Putin. Then in Miami, where a Ukrainian delegation met with Witkoff. And in New Delhi, where President Putin met India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The leaders' summit came amid Western pressure on India to reduce its trade with Moscow and use its influence to get Putin to end the war in Ukraine. FSN's Zishan Garg sent this report from New Delhi.
Now, from India's perspective, what it could do potentially to woo the United States on the other side, and that's something the European capitals have also been asking New Delhi as well, is to ask President Vladimir Putin to put an end to the war in Ukraine. European envoys have privately told the Indian government that Prime Minister Modi has President Putin's ear, and therefore he should use this influence to ensure that President Putin comes to the table, signs a peace deal, and puts an end to the Ukraine war.
This week, the FBI said it arrested a man suspected of planting pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic Party headquarters in Washington, D.C., following a years-long inquiry. The devices were left on January the 5th, 2021, the day before Donald Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. The week ended with a mixture of sport and politics as US President Donald Trump was awarded the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize. It came at the draw to find out which countries will play each other at next summer's Football World Cup. The draw was held in Washington, D.C., with the event next year being hosted by the US, Canada and Mexico. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. The phone number to do so is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
You know, I teased a story that I think I'm not actually going to do now.
Way to go. Why not? Why don't you want to do the story?
It's just kind of old.
Okay.
And also, nothing's going to come out of this. I mean, Trump's stance on the whole Epstein thing went from, I think I'll release the Epstein files. Right, that was on the campaign.
Yep.
And then it went to Epstein who? And then it went to, this is a Democrat hoax.
Yep.
And then it went to, all right, we'll release it. And then if you look at the story I was going to do there was about the quiet part, or the fine print part, where they talk about which parts they aren't going to be releasing about all the information they have, and it's basically anything juicy or important. I don't know. This story's important, but they're not going to give it to you. I I wonder how widely known it is what this story really is. I kind of get the feeling that people have an idea that this is about
sexual pedophilia.
Yeah, high-powered people being perverted, right? And which is one aspect.
Oh, it
of
definitely
what
is
it's
an
about.
aspect of the story, but
that's not what it's about.
Yeah, it's about blackmail.
Yeah, it's about international intelligence rings pulling the strings on people in order to get their way and to socially engineer the world in the image that they choose. Right? This is the bringing about of their new world order, as George H.W. Bush said 80-something times. Or I can't remember how many times. He said it a lot, though. Very enamored of the new world order.
Mm-hmm.
And but for a long time you were just called, you were just laughed at if you even said those words. So
you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yep. Anyways, so that was the gist of that, and it's just not really worth reading an article over, I don't think, right now. We'll talk about it more when Trump fails to give you anything
substantive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We can talk about this one, though. This is State Department to deny visas to fact checkers and others citing censorship.
Interesting headline. Tell me more.
The State Department is instructing its staff to reject visa applications for people who worked on fact-checking, content moderation, or other activities the Trump administration considers censorship of American speech. The directive sent an internal memo on Tuesday. The directive sent in an internal memo on Tuesday, I don't know why that was so hard to say, is focused on applicants for H-1B visas for highly skilled workers, which are frequently used by tech companies, among other sectors. The memo was first reported by Reuters. NPR also obtained a copy. If you uncover evidence an applicant was responsible for or complicit in censorship or attempted censorship of protected expression in the United States, you should pursue a finding that the applicant is ineligible for a visa, the memo says. It refers to a policy announced by Secretary of State Marco Rubio in May, restricting visas from being issued to foreign officials and persons who are complicit in censoring Americans. The Trump administration has been highly critical of tech companies' efforts to police what people are allowed to post on their platforms and of the broader field of trust and safety. The tech industry's terms for teams that focus on preventing abuse, fraud, illegal content, and other harmful behavior online. President Trump was banned from multiple social media platforms in the aftermath of his supporters' attack on the Capitol on January 6, 2021. While those bans have since been lifted, the president and members of his administration frequently cite that experience as evidence for their claims that tech companies unfairly target conservatives, even as many tech leaders have eased their policies in the face of that backlash. Tuesday's memo calls out H-1B visa applicants in particular, as many work in or have worked in the tech sector, including in social media or financial services companies involved in the suppression of protected expression. It directs consular officers to thoroughly explore the work histories of applicants, both new and returning, by reviewing their resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and appearances in media articles for activities including combating misinformation, disinformation, or false narratives, fact-checking, content moderation, compliance, and trust and safety. I'm alarmed that trust and safety work is being conflated with censorship, said Alice Gogan-Hunsberger, who has worked in trust and safety at tech companies including OpenAI and Grindr. Trust and safety is a broad practice which includes critical and life-saving work to protect children and stop CSAM, as well as preventing fraud, scams, and sextortion. TNS workers are focused on making the internet a safer and better place, not censoring just for the sake of it, she said. Bad actors that target Americans come from all over the world, and it's so important to have people who understand different languages and cultures on trust and safety teams. Having global workers at tech companies in trust and safety absolutely keeps Americans safer. In a statement, a State Department spokesperson who declined to give their name said the department does not comment on allegedly leaked documents, but added the administration has made clear that it defends Americans' freedom of expression against foreigners who wish to censor them. We do not support aliens coming to the United States to work as censors muzzling Americans. Hang on. Isn't that... isn't that they don't support them unless they're coming from one certain country?
I guess so, yeah.
The statement continued. In the past, the president himself was the victim of this kind of abuse when social media companies locked his accounts. He does not want other Americans to suffer this way. Allowing foreigners to lead this type of censorship would both insult and injure the American people. First Amendment experts criticized the memo's guidance as itself a potential violation of free speech rights. People who study misinformation and work on content moderation teams aren't engaged in censorship. They're engaged in activities that the First Amendment was designed to protect. This policy is incoherent and unconstitutional, said Carrie Diesel, senior staff attorney and legislative advisor at the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, in a statement. Even as the administration has targeted those it claims are engaged in censoring Americans, it has also tightened its own scrutiny of visa applicants' online speech. On Wednesday, the State Department announced it would require H-1B visa applicants and their dependents to set their social media profiles to public so they can be viewed by U.S. officials. I don't know. What do you think about that, Rayleigh?
I don't think the government should be knowing what I post and do not post on social media. I think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea because social media is a form of speech. And for governments to be interfering in the way we communicate is the ability to curtail what you're going to say and what you think. We have the freedom of speech for a reason. You have the right to make offensive speech. The freedom of speech is not for happy-go-lucky speech. It's for offensive speech. If you're offended, well, maybe you should choose to not be offended.
Yeah, I'm a free speech absolutist as well. However, content moderation on platforms is a good thing in that, have you ever been on a completely unmoderated platform? It turns to trash so fast.
It definitely can. I think that's the thing about moderated platforms is they're private. A company can choose how they want to monitor that platform.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for instance, Mastodon, like our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com, I don't know how moderated it is, but there's at least some sort of moderation going on there. Maybe very little, but some.
Yeah, I haven't been over there for a little while, so I'm not sure. This is a weird story because what you have here is the government telling the government not wanting to allow foreign workers to come here for the purpose of getting a job where they moderate content.
Yeah.
Because they're worried that it will have a negative effect on Americans' free speech. But to me, I don't see... I don't know. I just don't see that as being a correlation worth blocking visas over.
I agree. I see government as a bigger threat to our free speech than content monitors in some foreign land coming to America.
And isn't it like illegal in Florida for certain people to say certain things about Israel or the government thereof? Or
I have no idea.
I think they passed some anti-Semitism laws, which are definitely a violation of free speech, and that doesn't seem to be a problem. But they're gonna go ahead and block these visas for anybody who's ever had a content moderation job. That just sounds like, I don't know, hypocritical garbage to me.
I completely agree with you in there, Stu. I think it's hypocrisy at its finest for a government to say, oh, we gotta regulate this behavior, and then they don't regulate themselves. Governments are just... I could see this being misused by someone on the other side too, where they get to say, "Oh, we don't have to have Americans doing certain things because we got to regulate their speech now." You know, the left will regulate the right will regulate the left, so to speak, and it just becomes the pendulum swinging back and forth time and time again. People waste their lives away arguing over team red, team blue, while in reality, they're all in it together to rob you and make you blind.
Yep, that sounds about right to me.
And I'm already blind, so they can't do that, but they can rob me.
Yep, that was the end of that article anyways. Got another thing here we could talk about.
Before we go on, Stu, as a father of young kids, what do you hope your kids grow up to be like?
Let's see. I hope they grow up to be true to themselves and not a slave, not a victim.
Do you want them to become parents themselves?
If they want to.
Okay.
It's whatever they want in this world, as long as they're being true to themselves. And I think anybody who's being true to themselves conducts themselves in such a manner that nobody else on the planet would have a problem with it.
Yeah.
And so that's really the extent of my hope for them, you know, just to have a joyful life, whatever that means. And that means a different thing for everybody, I think. So yeah, I only hope to give them the best chances and tools to have a self-fulfilling experience in this world.
If I ever decide that I want kids one day, I hope the same thing for my kids, because it seems like we live in a world where authority, especially from government, is becoming more and more prevalent in our lives. We saw it during COVID when they tried to crack down on us. And we're going to see it again and again until people decide, oh, we're not going to comply anymore. But history's shown us that people love to comply. They'll be standing in line for the boxcars.
Yeah, they do until they don't. Sometimes the point of they don't comes a little too late.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes this time around.
There will be some who will not do that, who will not comply. That's for sure.
Well, this next one I think is short enough that we can probably get through it. It's got a big picture of Boris Johnson at the top. This guy's nutty looking. Like at least this picture they got of him makes him look crazy faced, like what's the guy's name with the big teeth? I can't remember his name right now.
I don't know either. I have no idea.
Gary Busey.
Okay.
Anyways, this is
so Boris Johnson, former UK leader type person, government person.
Yeah, I think so. He's definitely a UK government something or other.
Okay.
Probably a prime minister or who knows.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is another one from Activist Post titled "Boris Johnson urges Ukraine to continue war."
Of course.
Trump's proposal for peace in Ukraine has been met with an overwhelming condemnation from the world's neocons. Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson reemerges from the shadows whenever he hears word that a war may be winding down. He played an instrumental role in persuading Zelensky not to negotiate a peace treaty with Russia when it was apparent that Ukraine could not easily win, and now Johnson is urging Ukraine to continue the war. Imagine that you are Vladimir V. Putin, and you are spending a calm Saturday in the Kremlin. You casually watch the television news, and you cannot help but smile at the incompetence of your opponents, at the astonishing weakness of the West. You have lost more than 1 million soldiers killed and wounded in your attempts to subdue Ukraine. You have still failed to capture more than 20% of the country's territory. Your economy is faltering, and now they are talking about some new 28-point plan that will end the war, and it could have been written entirely by the Kremlin, Johnson warned. In typical neocon fashion, Johnson wants to paint the proposal as a victory for Russia. He acknowledges millions have died. But since they are Russian, their lives do not matter. Continue the slaughter at the expense of the people. Johnson declared that Britain was in a proxy war with Russia back in November 2024. It has been pathetic, let's face it. We're waging a proxy war, but not giving our proxies the ability to do the job. For years now, we've been allowing them to fight with one hand tied behind their backs. It has been cruel, he admitted 1 year ago. Why would Britain feel threatened by Russia? Why would any sane leader thrust their people into a battle that is not theirs to fight? I thought you weren't even supposed to publicly admit that you engaged in proxy war. I thought this was supposed to be in the realm of conspiracy theory, but apparently former prime ministers can just go around talking about it.
Yeah, apparently they can let the cat out of the bag.
The head of MI6, Sir Richard Moore, also came out in November 2024 admitting British intelligence was discreetly fighting on behalf of Ukraine. We cherish our heritage of covert action, which we keep alive today in helping Ukraine resist the Russian invasion, Moore commented. Moore and Johnson know that Russia has no incentive to invade Europe, especially Britain. There is absolutely nothing for Putin to gain. Europe, on the other hand, has everything to gain through conflict with Russia. They see Ukraine as the ultimate entryway into Russia. War is a great way to default on debts. You get to form a new government, and they always disavow the debts of the previous government. Europe has been committing economic suicide. Between the COVID-19 lockdowns, the net zero climate change, and then the sanctions on Russia that doubled their fuel costs, you could not ask for a more brain-dead group of politicians who have zero comprehension of even how the economy functions. Plain and simple, Russia invaded due to the West's failure to honor the Minsk Agreement. The neocons disregard the proposal entirely and conveniently disregard the original signed agreement when discussing conceding territory. The document offers Ukrainians not only to give up any attempts to reclaim Crimea or Donbass, but also to cede vast territories, including about 250,000 Ukrainians, whom the Russians do not even control. Of course, you knew your negotiators would try something like that, but you never believed anyone would take this seriously. You can't believe that President Trump would back this plan because it is a complete betrayal of Ukraine, Johnson continued in his recent writing. Let the people vote. The ethnically Russian people living in Ukraine have been unable to decide on their leadership. Zelensky outlawed their religion and language. Everyone believes they are protecting the people in these regions from the other side, but only one side is opening to learning the people's wishes. The 28-point plan saves the people of both Russia and Ukraine. Russia cannot abandon the war without guarantees that NATO will back down, and Ukraine is merely an EU puppet. Zelensky now has 2 days to decide whether he is willing to destroy his nation for the neocons. And that's where that article ends.
You know, it has been said that when all else fails, they take you to war, and it looks like they just want to keep us at perpetual war. We've always been at war with Eurasia. We've always been at war with Russia.
Mm-hmm. And the way that article ends kind of leaves it on a sort of a false conclusion, in my opinion, to where, like, it says, let the people vote. The ethnically Russian people living in Ukraine have been able to to decide. Maybe they're ethnically Russian. That still doesn't mean that they love Putin or the Kremlin or anything about the Russian government, right?
Right.
So why, I don't know. You have to have one or the other ruling over you. Why can't it just be neither? Because they're both bad. You know what I mean?
People want choices of either or. They don't want to have a third or fourth or fifth option. They want to have either or. It makes things much easier to decide, to think about. When you only have two options to think about, you only can choose one of the two options.
Well, I know. I play that trick on my children sometimes when I want them to clean their rooms. Like, do you want to clean your room or do something that I know you like even less? And then suddenly cleaning your room sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. It is a tactic you definitely use on your kids. And so governments are using that on us because we're like children at times.
So how about this, listener? Do you want to continue with statism and ultimately the outcome will be slavery and death? Or do you want to find the alternative to statism in a productive way, and maybe we can thrive and be what's the this catchword is abundance has been the catchword recently.
Yeah,
this is the new buzzword that they're using. Abundance. It'll be sustainable abundance, right? We could have been living in a paradigm of unimaginable abundance already had we given up trying to enslave each other at any point along American history, but here we are still trying to enslave each other. We call it the price you pay to live in a civilized society.
I know, and yet people are so ignorant about reality or ignorant about options or ignorant about the way that they can choose something different. Instead, we enslave each other to our own wills and whims and desires.
Mm-hmm. And go out and tell somebody that you think U.S. dollars are evil and bad, just to a normie, somebody who hasn't studied the inner workings of the Federal Reserve, and they'll look at you like you just told them like you slandered against their god, essentially.
Yeah. Tell people taxation is evil. It's like you slandered their god.
Yeah, and they not only are they not going to think it's okay for you to think that, but they're probably going to be very upset with you.
Well, when people don't think, they want someone else to think for them, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and they get threatened by people who don't think the same as them. So, yeah, that's what we're up against. We'll be back tomorrow night with more, though. Thanks for listening. This has been Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
Eleutheromania, the insatiable desire for freedom. It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Coming up next after the news, Hour 1 of the latest episode of Free Talk Live here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. US strikes on suspected drug boats remained a major focus in Washington this week. The White House confirmed that the US carried out a second strike on a boat in the Caribbean Sea in September as 2 injured people clung to the wreckage. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the second strike, which critics now say could amount to a war crime. Ever since Tony Waterman was monitoring developments in Washington.
Press Secretary Leavitt said Pete Hegseth authorized the commander of the operation, Admiral Frank Bradley, to carry out the strikes, defending it as a matter of national security.
Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Democrat and Republican lawmakers have vowed to launch investigations into what could be a potential war crime. It's illegal to intentionally kill wounded, sick, or shipwrecked people who are not fighting back. President Trump has said he still has confidence in Hegseth, but wouldn't have ordered a second strike.
The Ukraine peace plan was discussed around the world this week.